Ben Shephard has always been seen as the golden boy of British television, the charming presenter, the reliable face of Good Morning Britain and Tipping Point, and the man who balanced success in the public eye with a quiet, dignified family life at home with his wife, Annie. For decades, they were considered one of the most admired couples in British media. Ben, with his warm wit and easy confidence, and Annie, the woman who stood by his side long before the spotlight found him. Together, they represented stability, loyalty, and the rare kind of marriage that seemed untouchable in the fleeting world of celebrity. But behind closed doors, what once looked unshakable is now beginning to unravel. Whispers are growing louder. Insiders close to the couple claim that tensions have been mounting for months, perhaps years, and in recent weeks, those rumors have transformed into something far more serious, pulling Ben Shephard into a storm he never imagined he'd face. And at the very center of it all, Annie, the woman who knows him better than anyone, the woman whose silence has become louder than any denial. This is not just a story about love. It's about trust, reputation, and what happens when the image you've built over a lifetime begins to crack under pressure. Stay with me, because this is Ben Shephard's most personal battle yet, and it may just redefine everything we thought we knew about him. To understand how shocking this moment is, we need to go back to the beginning. Long before Tipping Point and Ninja Warrior UK, before This Morning and the glitz of prime time, Ben Shephard was a young man with big dreams and very little certainty about how or even if he would break into television. It was Annie who grounded him. A lawyer by profession, she offered stability, perspective, and belief at a time when Ben's career was more aspiration than reality. Friends described their bond as one built on patience and trust. Annie wasn't charmed by the idea of fame. She valued authenticity. She fell for the man, not the future presenter. And when success finally did arrive, when Ben's career exploded in the early 2000s, it seemed only to strengthen their partnership. Together, they raised 2 sons. Together, they built a home that became the very opposite of showbiz glitz. Ben has spoken often about choosing family over fame, about rushing back from filming to watch football with his boys, about keeping his marriage out of the spotlight for the sake of normality. To the public, Ben and Annie embodied something rare, genuine balance, which is why what's happening now feels so unthinkable. According to those close to the couple, the first real signs of strain appeared quietly. Ben's workload increased dramatically in the past decade. Between his early morning commitments on ITV, his role on Tipping Point, and an endless carousel of media appearances, his days grew longer. His energy, always boundless on screen, was stretched thin at home. Meanwhile, Annie's career was demanding in its own right. A successful lawyer, she carried responsibilities that rarely made headlines, but carried immense weight. Sources suggest it wasn't one catastrophic moment, but rather the slow, steady pull of 2 people moving in different directions. The schedules, the silences, the constant juggling, it all added up. Insiders described heated discussions about priorities, about time, about what was being sacrificed. For Annie, it was the growing sense that she was holding up too much of the family weight. For Ben, it was the guilt of wanting to be everywhere at once, but falling short. And yet, publicly, they remained the picture of composure. That facade began to crumble earlier this year. Whispers of tension began leaking to the press. First in vague suggestions that Ben was under pressure balancing his roles, then in sharper headlines speculating about marital difficulties behind the scenes. At first, the Shephards ignored it. Ben smiled through his segments, Annie kept her silence, and their inner circle closed ranks. But then came the revelation that made people stop. Reports emerged that legal teams were quietly involved not in divorce filings, but in preliminary asset discussions. The language was careful, the descriptions cautious, but the implication was clear. This was no longer just speculation. Something serious was unfolding. And it wasn't just about emotion. It was about money. It was about property. It was about the kind of behind-the-scenes negotiations that happen when a marriage, however beloved, begins to face collapse. For Ben Shephard, this was a nightmare. Unlike Hollywood actors or scandal-driven celebrities, Ben's entire career has been built on trust. He's the presenter viewers invite into their homes each afternoon. He's the man people see as safe, steady, and reliable. To suddenly be painted as a man whose personal life was under legal scrutiny, that was unthinkable. And it cut deeper than just the press. Friends say Ben has confided his deepest fear, that the collapse of his marriage could shatter not just his reputation, but his very sense of self. And then there is Annie, the woman who has spent decades supporting him from the shadows, the woman who avoided the spotlight, content to let Ben be the face of their family. In this storm, Annie has remained silent. But insiders suggest her silence is strategic, that she is protecting not just herself, but her children, that she is leaning on her legal expertise to prepare for what might be coming. Some even speculate that Annie herself was the one to initiate the legal preparations that have now come to light. And if that is true, then the story we're watching is not of Ben Shephard's control, but of Annie Shephard's quiet power. The big question now is simple. What happens next? For Ben, two battles loom. One is legal, the quiet but undeniable negotiations about assets, properties, and financial futures. The other is emotional, the battle for his reputation, his marriage, and his sense of identity. If reconciliation is possible, it will take extraordinary vulnerability and change. If divorce is inevitable, it will mark the end of one of British television's most admired partnerships and reshape Ben's life forever. For Annie, the path ahead may be clearer. She has her career, her independence, and the quiet dignity that has always defined her. Whatever happens, she will emerge with her reputation intact. This is not just a story of a marriage. It's the story of what happens when public image collides with private pain. Ben Shephard has spent decades building a career on warmth, trust, and reliability. Now, as his most private struggle spills into public view, we're reminded of something all too human. Behind the smiles, behind the polished TV appearances, there is a man who is, at this very moment, fighting to hold on to the life he loves. Is this simply the natural strain of a busy life, or is it the beginning of the end for Ben and Annie Shephard? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss the latest updates. This story is far from over.